we're turning our attention to Clare and Galway on Saturday. And Matthew O'Hanlon is with us this morning. Good morning to you, Matthew. How are you doing?
Morning, lads. How's it going?
Yeah,
very good.
Thanks very much for joining us. We know you've got to head off and teach the future stars of Wexford how to be good hurlers and footballers in a couple of minutes' time. So thanks very much for making time for us this morning. Can I just start off by asking you, which of these two teams is the more difficult one to play against, having played against both of them and experienced that this year?
I would say probably the most difficult team that we played against would probably be Clare, because of the way we set up. And I suppose Clare would be familiar with the type of play that we would usually associate ourselves with setting up with the extra defender at the back. And the type of players that Clare have, they're very good at working the ball out, playing short 30, 40 yard passes to hand and avoiding extra defender at the back. So Galway against us, they're a bigger physical team. They went more direct route. When we played them in the championship in Wexford Park, they had James Skell with the wind behind him, landing his puckouts on the 21 with Johnny Glynn in full forward. And then they got 5 or 6 points from the breaking ball there. Whereas Galway more orthodox, Clare are more tactical in how they attack us and use space and the pace that they have in their forward line to get the better of it. So definitely the more difficult team to set up in Clare.
Okay, so Clare actually offer you like a very different challenge. You kind of know exactly what you're going to get with Galway and you can just match up against that. But Clare, I guess, take you out of your comfort zone a bit. Yeah,
definitely. Like if you look at, take Clare's forwards for examples, you have John Conlon and Peter Duggan, both 6 foot plus, but the other 4 forwards are all small, skillful, very fast players. So Clare play to those strengths. They try to isolate John Conlon in the full forward line and try to get quick ball into him direct, and then the rest of the players feed off of him. Either he scores directly or assists Podge Collins or Shane O'Donnell to his side. Then you have Tony Kelly, who gets on loose ball in the middle of the field and attacks and runs the players. Whereas Galway's 6 forwards, they try to win their own ball and take their own scores. Whereas Clare are very much work together up front and have a clear defined tactic in getting the ball into John Conlon. Whereas Galway don't isolate one forward in particular.
That is interesting, because there would have been a sense that, like, just with the level of confidence that Galway have and the physicality they have, that like automatically they would be the most difficult team to play against. But I guess it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. At least you know exactly what that challenge is going to be.
Yeah, look, it's a different story when you come up against them, because their 6 forwards are all 6 foot plus men, well able to win their own ball and physically commanding in that area, and they're able to take their own score, and they've proved that in the championship. Knowing how they set up and counteracting it are 2 very different things. Last year in the Leinster final, they did a very similar tactic in direct long ball, and Joe Cooney and Conor Cooney both got 5 or 6 points from play against us. This year in the championship, they did similar, only with Johnny Glynn on the full forward line, but went with long direct ball. And when you've got big men winning ball or breaking ball to their forwards, it's very difficult to stop. I think out of the 10 puckouts that we faced in the first half, I think we had won 5 breaks. They had won 5, but they got 5 points from it. So obviously it paid out more for them, even though we won 50-50 ball. That's one worry that I have for Clare, is that, you know, the spine of the team, they have Conor Cleary and David McInerney full and centre back. They're likely going to be Joe Canning, or it depends if Conor Cooney or Johnny Glynn is going to get the nod for Galway side, but they're still 2 big imposing men, and it's going to be 2 key battles there, because I think if they get on top, Galway's forwards, they dictate the drumbeat for the rest of the Galway forwards. If they get on top, I think that Clare backs could struggle.
Yeah, it certainly seems like the only way to beat Galway is to win each and every individual battle, or the majority of them at least, in the backs. Yeah. Like, what elements of your game plan defensively against Galway did you feel worked in your meeting back in June?
When we think back to that, like we lost the game by 7 or 8 points, but when we caused them the most trouble is when we ran at them, when we used pace. I think if you look at the spine of Galway's defence with Dahi Burke and Grove McInerney, big, strong, imposing players, but you need to play to their weaknesses, I say, which is the space to either side of them, putting ball into space and allowing the pace of our forwards to get on the ball and drag them out of position. If you play a long ball on 6 or 3 for them, they're going to win 90% of them. You need to play it either short to a half forward or space in behind the 2 wing backs for corner forwards to come out and attack. And I think that's where they can hurt them. And I think Clare have the players to do that. The way Shane O'Donnell and Podge Collins have been playing in the last 2 days or 2 games, they've definitely got, you know, their form is up to getting 3-4 points from play each game. And I think if they get the ball to them in open space, they can cause them a lot of problems.
From your kind of up close and personal view of it the last day, how good is Tony Kelly playing at the moment? Is he motoring at a similar level to 2013 at the moment?
He's definitely up there. He's definitely up there. I think he had 4 points from play against us after 26 minutes. He was playing centre forward, but what Clare do is I was playing wing back on Peter Duggan, and what they did was drag their 2 wing backs back inside our 45, and it left pockets of space to the left and right for Tony Kelly to run into. And Donald Huey's puckouts were landing, and he was picking them up on a bounce. So when Tony Kelly has a ball and 30 yards of space to run into, and the ball is hopping into his hand, he's very difficult to stop, because when he gets up and running, it's very, very difficult to get a hook or a block. And he, his eye is in. He got 4 points from 4 shots against us, and he really ran the show in the first half and most of the second half. And I think that's one of the key battles for Galway. Do they decide to leave Ger and Eoin on him, centre back on centre forward, or does Micheál Donoghue do a man marking job? I think he will. I think he might put the likes of Pádraig Mannion on him to go one-on-one and go wherever he's going to go, because Tony Kelly can go anywhere in the pitch. And I think his form really dictates how the Clare team play. If he's on form, the Clare team are flying. If he's not on form, the Clare team struggle.
Can you just go back and tell us what you guys did then when the 2 other half forwards either side of Tony Kelly decided to go back into their own half back? Did you guys follow with them? Did you hold your positions? Would you do something different now, knowing what you know in the aftermath? Or how did that all play?
In the aftermath, we definitely probably would have changed it quicker. So when I say R45, so they started probably 20 yards behind where their orthodox wing forward position should be, to leave that space for Tony Kelly to run into. The difficulty is if I stepped up and tried to cover that space, Donald Huey would hit a long puck out, and then it's very difficult to stop a man catching from behind you when you're in front. So if it was to do it again, I'd probably drag our midfielders back to cover that space and our wing forwards back, to not allow that drifted puck out to bounce in that space for him to run onto, because it's very difficult for a centre back to cover both sides of the pitch, especially with the pace that Tony Kelly has, because if you give him 2 yards, he's going to extend that to 5 to 6 yards, and then by that stage the ball's in the hand and over the bar.
And was that a kink in their puck out strategy that you guys hadn't identified up until kind of the middle of the first half?
Yeah, we struggled with it at times in the first half, and then we were probably too slow to drag our half forward line out and midfielders back to cover that. I thought we got to grips a bit more in the second half, but yeah, looking back on it, it's definitely something we should have identified earlier, and it's not something we picked up in our video analysis ahead of the game. That's
interesting, because the assumption is that there's nothing new at this stage, that you've all seen enough tape of each other, but I guess that's the whole point of these the build-up to championship weeks, is that there are still plenty of room for changes and for just little wrinkles to get people half an hour, 45 minutes of a bit of an advantage. And as you say, that's like the 3-4 points that gives Tony Kelly his dander open, that gives everybody else the opportunity to feed off that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I suppose we look at the Munster Championship, Tony Kelly didn't play every game centre forward. He played some of the games midfield, so that tactic probably wasn't in use as much, and it probably wasn't as visible as much to us. But then I suppose Clare stumbled on probably their best 15 in their best positions at the moment, and that's what they're trying to utilise. And they're trying to get Tony Kelly on the ball, because everyone knows what he can do when he has the ball in hand. And there has been games in Munster Championship where he's floated through the first half with 3 or 4 possessions, and Clare really need him to get 9-10 possessions a half to really have an impact on the game. So that's what they're probably trying to isolate to do.
We've been talking all week about the Conlon-Burke battle that's going to happen. Jackie Tyrrell's basically been lying awake at night. He says, kind of dreaming about what's actually going to happen. What do you think is going to happen?
Look, I think John Conlon is in the form of his life. He's absolutely on fire. Against us in the quarter-final, I thought Liam Ryan did a really, really good job. I think I saw a stat, 20 balls went directly in on that battle. Liam Ryan went 13, up to 7, John Conlon won. He scored 3 points.
Just having a little trouble with the line there.
Interesting stuff. It's the whole kind of adjustments mid-game. Like as you say there, the body of knowledge that you get after the round robins especially kind of feels like we know everything about these teams, but each and every team matches up in a different way when it comes to the particular opposition.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting as well to see what impact Croke Park has on Saturday. Like Clare haven't played there in 5 years at this point. Like that's insane. And
they've been dreaming about it. They keep talking about how important it's going to be for them to get back there. So, like, if it does have the extra 5-10% that they think it's going to have, then this game is much closer than I think people might have been penciling it in. I'd say a lot of people had this is automatically a win for the All-Ireland champions, but if they're going to get caught, it's probably going to be a semi-final, isn't it?
And if there's any team that's going to catch the big hulking frames of the Galway 15, then it's going to be the likes of Podge Collins and Shane O'Donnell's, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, Matthew, you're just telling us there about the form that John Collins in and how you guys dealt with him in the quarterfinal.
Yeah, so look, the matchup that we had Liam Ryan and John Conlon in the full forward line, and I think out of the 20 balls that went in there, I think Liam Ryan won 13. I thought he did really, really well attacking the ball, But still, out of the 7 possessions that John Conlon got, I think he got 3 points, 1-2 frees, and set up two points as well. If you're going to get that from your full forward every day, you're going to be happy. And that was probably one of the more subdued performances of Conlon this championship. So Daithí Burke, I don't think he's faced a challenge where he's going to be up against a man that's just as physical as him. John Conlon's a big, strong man, and he's quick as well, able to shoot off left and right. So it's going to be a different challenge for Daithí Burke, but the form he's in this year, I think it's going to be a hell of a battle. But it's hard to know. It's hard to call it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you are making it a much closer game, I would say, than most of the other pundits that we've spoken to in the build-up to this. That actually you're giving, it sounds to me like Clare, the best chance of the remaining teams who are left to beat Galway. Yeah,
I said this before. I think that Clare are the team to challenge Galway in a different way. Most teams that have come up against Galway try to front up physically, and they haven't managed to be able to get over the line. I think Clare have forwards to challenge them in a different way, and a lot of pace. 4 of their 6 forwards are extremely quick and skillful players. 2 are 6 foot plus, well able to win their own ball and take a score. I think Clare have the forwards that can hurt Galway's backs. My only worry is I think Galway's 6 forwards probably have Clare's backs number. Conor Cleary and David McInerney in the centre defence have to have massive performances to give Clare a chance. So it'll be interesting. I still think Galway are going to come out on top with 50 points. It's going to be a lot.
Matthew, there was one other thing we wanted to ask you about. It was because we had Jim Bulger in studio yesterday. There's going to be an interview with him coming next week on OTB AM, and we were chatting to Jim about the 1956 team, which of course included some of the greats like the Rackhards and all of them, but it also included your grandfather, I understand.
Yes, that's right. My grandfather, Mick O'Hanlon, played cornerback on the 1956 team. So he's from Horswood, so it's my neighbouring parish at home. So yeah, I have a lot of memories of my grandmother telling me about him. I unfortunately didn't get to meet him before. He passed away before I was born, but I have scrapbooks, and I actually have one of the old, I think it's 1955 or 1956 newspaper articles with the team laid out. So yeah, that 50s team is well loved in Wexford, and it's nice to have a connection to it.
Yeah, you're on the Jim Bulger team. I think that means you get to play with TJ and Richie Hogan.
I'm actually on the Davy Russell
team. Are you?
Team.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
You get to go up against them.
TJ Reid again this year, I think.
Well, I can tell you that Jim Bulger fancies Davy Russell's team. I'm not sure is he just playing down his chances at the moment, but he makes you guys favourites.
Yeah, I think Davy Russell has a few new recruits. I see Noel McGrath's on board, so I think we're going to have a bit more firepower this year. But look, it's a great event. A lot of great people involved, and it's a nice thing to be a part of,
Yeah, I know it raises loads of money for very necessary charities around the country as well. Matthew, what's your own story in terms of next year? There was some talk that maybe you might go travelling. Have you decided what your plans are yet?
Yes, at the moment we were back to our clubs last week, so club championship last weekend. So that'll be my priority for the next 5 to 6 weeks. When club championship finishes up, I'm going to do a bit of travelling. So I'm probably going to take 3 months to visit my sister in Boston, one of my mates in New York, and then to cover off Central America. I studied Spanish in university, so that area of the world appeals to me a lot. So I'm going to take the opportunity in the off season to go and see a bit of the world, and hopefully come back refreshed for a new championship campaign.
How do you feel about that whole work-life balance at the moment? Obviously, Lee Chin is a teammate of yours, and it kind of came in for a lot of focus when he said that he was going to focus really on his hurling career at the moment as opposed to his exterior career, and that brought a lot of questions from one side and then a lot of praise from other people saying, look, you get one opportunity to do this and you're young and you're actually not that much in terms of commitments at the moment, so go for it. How is your work-life balance?
Yeah, so look, over the last 7-8 years I've been based in Dublin between university and working, so I would have been like anyone else working a 9-to-5 job Monday to Friday. And it is difficult, don't get me wrong. It's when you leave the house in the morning at 7:30, you're not getting back till 11:30 after training some days. It does get tedious after the years go by, although there is a group of us in Wexford that we can travel together. But I think I've made the decision to step away from a job mainly because I didn't want to locate myself outside of Ireland. So to progress within the company, I would have needed to move. And I used the opportunity to get a break from work to focus on hurling for the summer like a student or teacher, and then take some time to travel before deciding my next career move. I've always been career focused. I'm looking forward to what that next challenge will be. I can't see a time where I'll focus solely on hurling. He's doing what he wants to do.
we're just losing you again there, Matthew. I don't know what the issue with the sound is there, unfortunately, but bit of an issue. I don't know what that is, but this is really interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, it is. It's it's interesting to kind of view it in the prism of don't just settle for being a teacher. If you want to actually do a different career and you want to somewhere off, that's possible as well. There's a possibility of taking 2 or 3 month breaks. If you want to be a teacher, then so be it. Go to be a teacher, you know. But I'm sure with the way society's evolved and the way modern corporations are set up, it's that fluidity is allowed.
Yeah, I did want to just ask you though, there's been loads of research done about kids who continue to do sport during their exams have a better outcome in their exams. Do you find though that actually as a hurler you were hurling slightly better when you had something to take your mind off the fact that you were hurling, or did the summer actually result in you playing your best because you had the time to dedicate yourself full time? What was that like?
I can see it from both sides now. I suppose I'm in a unique position. When I was working, I used sport as an opportunity to relieve stress that I may have from my day-to-day working life, and to get out and get fresh air. And you come back the next day into work and you're refreshed. And it's nice to not have all your eggs in one basket, that you're not thinking about hurling 24/7, that you have challenges to focus on Monday to Friday that take your mind off it. Yeah, that definitely was an advantage. But then there was the other side to it. Over the summer, I didn't have the stress or the challenge of dealing with M50 traffic, travelling for 2 to 3 hours to get the training. I could arrive a bit earlier. I could get an extra gym session in, an extra wall ball session in. I could see the physio for rehab if I needed to. So they're all added benefits that I wouldn't have had in the past. Did it make me play any better than I would have in the past? I'm not so sure. There is benefits to both. It's really about finding the balance that works for you. It's not something that I will see myself continue doing. I will see myself going back to my career, but it works for the likes of Lee Chin, who wants to do it, and that works for him, and that's his lifestyle currently that he's chosen to do, and fair play to him. If he finds a balance that works for him and gets the best out of his performance on the pitch, then by all means stick with it. But for me, it's not something that I would see long term for me.
And one last question, obviously I guess you guys were a little bit disappointed with how the year finished in terms of the level of expectation that you would have had after the first year of Davy's reign. Do you hope that Davy sees it through for one more year at least?
Yeah, definitely. Look, as a group of players, we're firmly behind Davy Fitz. I think he's brought us to a level that we're able to consistently compete with the top teams in the country. We've beaten the top 8 teams in either league or championship in the last 2 years, and people have short memories. We've gone from 3-4 years ago getting, a couple of trimmings from Kilkenny and Leinster championship to, beating them last year, coming within a point of beating them this year. So I think there's still a lot of room to improve. We're 4 quarterfinals in the last 5 years. We're really knocking on that door, trying to get to the top table, to an All-Ireland semi-final or better. And I think Davy's the man to bring us there. No decisions have been made now. Conversations haven't happened. The defeat is still fresh. It's only this is the second week of it. We're back into club championship. We haven't had the chance to discuss it, but I really do hope he stays on, because I think that there's another gear in us to get to the next level.
Matthew, great stuff. Enjoy the club championship and the travel, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks a million.
Thanks a million, lads. Speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.